very important to try to line up your glue points so that when you attach your rope later, they all line up in the same spot. So basically, when creating your pattern for your cargo, or creating your cargo net out of paracord, you want to stage this in concentric rings. And this one isn't completed. We're going to do one, potentially two more over the top. And it's real important that you get all your glue points lined up so that when you attach the vertical pieces that are going to hang down, that they're attached all in the same points. So the trick when building out your ghillie boonie cap is basically you're going to make concentric rings of rope. Now most snipers and most ghillie suits you'll see, they'll just take the 1/2 inch or the 1 inch cargo netting and they'll just attach it and drape it over. That's convenient, but we didn't have any, and this is as good if not better method for making your boonie cap. So just start out. I usually start here on the first ring and then work my way up. And a good way to do it is just to kind of place it up on your knee and then just spin it around as you're gluing. And you want to make sure that all the glue points line up all the way across, because basically what we're going to do is take more pieces of paracord and run them down and create kind of a cape around the back of it. Alright, so after you get the concentric rings of paracord done around in a circular manner around the hat, the next step is you're going to take a piece of paracord and you're essentially going to lay it over the top of your head, and you're going to have about 4 to 5 inches overhang on the brim of your hat. And I like to stage this portion of the cargo netting back behind my eyes. A lot of guys like to have these full shrouded veils, which is okay once you get to your hide site, but when you're walking you have no peripheral vision, which is a big problem. You know, I always tell people it's not the camo that gives you away, guys. 90% of stalking is movement and knowing where to move, when to move, what your target is doing, whether they're looking your direction, things like that, and you need to be able to see. So I don't believe in having these huge shrouds that come completely over your face, because all they do is create a huge dark spot. And snipers are trained to look for that kind of stuff. When you put a full, veil over the top of your head and there's just a sliver, the biggest thing that will stick out in the woods is that big dark spot. They may not see anything else and they're like, oh man, what's that spot right there? So you want to be mindful that you don't do that with your camouflage. You don't want to have some spot that sticks out. So I like to run this first piece of cord, and you're basically going to glue it just like we've done all the ones before, and this is a little bit more difficult and it's going to require a little bit more glue. But you're going to connect it to all these points and drape it anywhere from 4 to 6 inches over the front of your cap, because once you get the burlap on this stuff, it's going to naturally pull down the sides anyway and be a little bit lower. So stage it just a little bit higher when you're doing your paracord netting. So once you get your top piece on, you're going to continue to work on making your grid, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4 across the top, and then you'll notice this fourth one is going to kind of conform around in more of a horseshoe shape around the back. And then when he's done, we're going to run 1 or 2 right here, and then we're going to make a grid that hangs around your neck. And the tricky part is to keep the paracord glued down while you're actually working on other parts. Sometimes you'll have to do a section and then quit for a little while, let it dry, and then come back. So we are trying to create a grid exactly as we've done before, and here on the back side you're making this piece that arches up like this, and then you're going to take a couple of more pieces and have attachment points here and then also right over here, and you're basically creating kind of a hood for your boonie cap. Alright, so once you get the vertical and the concentric rings grid pattern done on the hat, the final section is to stretch out the end links and then basically make an arc all the way around. And you really want to glue the crap out of this. Now, if you have the time, it would be better to sew this together versus glue it together. But this stuff is extremely strong industrial strength glue, so it's going to hold for a really long time. It's not going to last as long as sewing it together, but this will get the job done, I promise you. So you're going to start with your first ring, and then you're going to move all the way around, and then you're going to put one more ring inside of that, and then you'll trim off the dead links. And it's always better to have it a little bit longer, probably around the back of the neck area, than it is along the sides. Alright, so here's our finished product. Once you get your outer circles laid out, just go ahead and trim the ends. And I can't say this enough, you need to put a lot of glue on your hat, and especially these sections in the outer ring so that they don't come apart in the field. And you want to let this set and dry overnight. And like I said, glob up a bunch of stuff on it. And if you've got time, if you've got like a little field sewing kit or something like that, you can take that and sew it together in no time, and this thing will last forever. But if you don't have that, which we don't have, you know, this is the best method. Just glue it together and it'll last a long time. So we're going to let this set overnight. We're fixing to lose our daylight. And we've got our ghillie suits completed, our burlap cut. We're going to come back first thing in the morning and show y'all how to finish the rest of the suit out. Alright, so once you get your tops and bottoms completed, then you're going to start putting on your burlap. And there's a lot of different places that you can get burlap, you know, your farmer's co-op and stuff like that. But we recently found something that we feel is a lot better than normal burlap, because you don't have to do any dyeing, you don't have to dirty it up first. Basically, you can go to Walmart and pick up canvas, like 12 by I think 54-inch sheets of camo burlap that's got Realtree on the outside, and this stuff is fantastic. And basically all you have to do is cut it into 1 to 2 inch wide strips and make it anywhere from 12 to 18 inches long, maybe a little bit shorter on certain pieces of the ghillie suit. And then you're just going to attach these to all the different cargo netting points that we created on the suit. Here's the finished product for your boonie cap. Something that's really, really important to remember. You'll see a lot of ghillie suits out there that are done with hoods, and people have a tendency to put too much burlap on their actual hat. And the reason that's a problem is if you don't allow light to shine through on the burlap, you create a dark hole that basically, you know, encompasses your face, and a guy looking through a set of binos or a spotting scope or something like that will see that dark hole and know that that's something that doesn't fit in, you know, in nature. So that will get you point you out. So when you're making your hat, you basically want to leave it to where there's light that'll come through, but it's also still, you know, you can still easily veg everything up. And you know, you can add or take away from this depending on your situation, but this is basically how you want it to look when you're finished. Alright guys, so we've got the grid pattern completely done on our ghillie suit for hat, top, and bottom. And so now we're going to start layering our burlap. And this is a pretty important process. Your burlap is essentially your foundation for all the camo or veg that you're going to add to it. Now this burlap that we've got is really good stuff. It's kind of got a Realtree print over it, and so there's not a whole lot that needs to be done to it other than vegging. If you're using like normal burlap from a store or something like that, a lot of the times you need to dye that or spray paint it, but this stuff is pretty much ready to go as is. We're probably going to hit it with a little bit of spray paint as a touch-up. And anyway, so when you're attaching this stuff, don't go crazy with the burlap, guys. I can't tell you how many guys I've seen go through stalking courses, other schools, military, that build these gigantic, you know, like foot thick of burlap, and it's like almost like they're walking around in the woods like Sasquatch suits. You really don't want that much excess weight on it. It's not the burlap. The burlap is the foundation, and it's going to help you absorb veg and things like that. But at the end of the day, the veg is what makes you invisible. It's not the burlap. So don't create huge, huge mounds of it. Put just enough burlap on this so that it can easily be stuffed and vegged, but it's also not so heavy and bulky that it catches on everything when you're walking through the woods. Alright, so when attaching the burlap to your suit, it's important how you tie it in the certain places that you tie it. Down around the base of your blouse here, you basically want those to be a little bit longer, and along the sides you want it to be a little bit longer. And the reason is when you lay down or you're doing your stalk, low crawl, you basically want those pieces to flow over you so that you don't have like one spot to the side that isn't covered. And it's the same thing when doing your trousers. You want these to hang just short to the bottom of your boots, because one of the easiest things to pick out you know, when doing these stalking skills and using ghillie suits is you'll walk up on a guy and you can't see anything, but you'll see the bottom of his boots. So you've got to make sure that that area is concealed, and depending you know, on the type of mission or what you're trying to do, kind of depends on how much texture and how much length you need for that kind of stuff. But I like to tie long pieces on the edges, and then I like to tie a little bit shorter pieces in the center, because I want to add some height depth, some texture. So I'll leave these a little bit shorter and the sides a little bit longer. So when building out the top shoulder area for your blouse, you want to add a lot of height to change your silhouette, so you're going to want shorter pieces of burlap tied in the middle towards that area. So after you get your burlap completed, one of the final stages is to take your magical camo spray here, and I'm telling you what, almost every top-notch sniper that I know and tactical guy who does this stuff uses camo paint to a heavy degree. Just make sure it's ultra flat, absolutely zero shine, otherwise you're going to accent yourself. So in our baseline here, we've got a lot of browns, we've got a little bit of greens, but anytime you're camoing up, you want to camo to the baseline. And what I say by the baseline is the color that's of most abundance, and that is typically like leaf debris. It's what's on the ground. It's where you're physically going to be. So while woodland BDUs are good, they also have a lot of dark colors that don't necessarily blend in with the forest floor. There's a lot of blacks, there's a lot of things like that, and it's fairly easy to silhouette yourself with this type of camo. So what we're going to do is basically knock down any kind of shine that it has on it, for one, and try to create just a dulling effect to everything. And so we've got a little bit of olive drab, and just take it and just kind of spray it sporadically. Don't worry about patterns. Don't worry about all that. You're just trying to knock the color down. And then I'm going to take a little bit of a lighter color. Watch out, Tracker. So take that lighter color. You can take branches and things like that, create patterns if you want to, but I don't really think that they help all that much. And you're just going to kind of create almost a shadow effect with this stuff. And depending on your area is how you're going to spray this stuff on. You know, if you've got more browns or you've got more light tan colors and things like that for grass, use more of that. Just customize this to your area of operation, And you know, these are a good thing to have, you know, if you're going out on mission or whether you're going deer hunting, it doesn't really matter. You want to customize your camo for your specific area. After you get your ghillie suit painted up with your spray paint, you're going to take it and basically drag it through the dirt. You want to get these things as dirty, nasty, dusty looking as you possibly can so that there's no potential of anything, any kind of shine coming through. And I'll drag them, you know, sometimes through some light mud. Dust and ash seem to probably work the best for knocking down shine. And just take it, flop it around, get a lot of dust in it. And as you can see, there's a big difference in the overall shine value after, you know, like we had our normal BDU camos and then spray painted them up. You know, you don't need any fancy patterns. You're just trying to really knock down any shine and, you know, try to make, well, you're trying to fool the eye with patterns basically, but just knocking it down with a little bit of spray paint makes a tremendous difference. So here's the finished product. It's a ghillie suit from top to bottom. Probably got, you know, 50 bucks in one, you know, if that. You can pick up BDUs at surplus stores for next to nothing. You get a roll of burlap for 12 bucks at Walmart and 100 foot of paracord and a few tubes of glue, and you got yourself a custom ghillie suit. Turn around real quick. Now this is just burlapped. We haven't really vegged this real heavily. We'll do that more when we get out on stalks and things like that. But I like to keep this area fairly open, have a little bit of light through. I keep talking about that whole tunnel. You don't want to have a big black spot. And then on the front, go ahead and turn around. Now we spray painted, subdued. You're going to be laying down on the front, so your camo on your front's a little bit less important than your back. You know, this suit is, you know, a cheap or fairly, you know, budget-friendly suit, whereas this is my personal suit from Tactical Concealment. Now, this is a better suit. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but not everybody's got 500 bucks to, you know, throw towards one of these things. They can be fairly expensive. The difference kind of between jute and burlap is fairly significant. I like jute a lot better. Really the only downside to jute is for tracking purposes. Jute catches on everything, guys. Burlap doesn't. You know, anybody who's wearing a jute-based ghillie suit and they are going through thick areas, I guarantee you that I can track those guys. So that's the one downside to jute, is it catches, whereas burlap doesn't. But jute absorbs veg, in my opinion, a whole lot better. You know, you can just roll this thing around in the dirt and it's just going to pick up all kinds of stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of different variations, ways you can put hoods versus, you know, caps, things like that. There's so many different things you can do, it's ridiculous. But this is just one of the many skills that we teach out here at our Tactical Scout program. This is our stalking camo and fieldcraft course. And our Tactical Scout program is basically a compilation of every possible field tactical skill that you could possibly imagine. And we focus today on moving and tactics and things like that, and not being seen. And if you've got an interest in coming out and taking some of these classes, go check out our website and look at our Tactical Scout certification programs and see if it's something that fits for you. And come out here and train with us. As always, we appreciate your viewership. The best way that you can help us, guys, is subscribe, share, like. You know, show this stuff to your friends, tell people about us. That is the best way to help us. So please do that. And, you know, as always, we appreciate any kind of commentary that, you know, we can add to this. Thanks.